up? What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of 94 Feet with Coach JT. As always, leave a like in the comment section. Subscribe to the pod. Hit the website, 94feetwithcoachjt.com. Got some merch on you. Got some merch up there for you. Some spring stuff, summer stuff, shorts, tank tops for everybody, man. Just trying to get the brand out there. The slogan, stay applying pressure out there, man. We're going to just apply pressure all year long. I'm broadcasting live again here from Our Place Event Space in the Invitation Room in Old Sacramento. If you haven't been here, stop by Our Place Event Space in Sacramento or visit the website too, or follow on Instagram, man. It's a dope venue, inside, outside activities, parties, weddings, whatever you want to get to. It's definitely dope, man. So just shout out Our Place, man, for letting me host the show in here, man. Let me get to his introduction, man. My guest, man, grew up in the south side of Richmond, California. It was common for him and his older brother to hear gunshots ringing out at nighttime. The boys made a game of it, trying to guess what caliber bullet it was being fired and what type of gun it came from. Also was heard, and heard a lot of things that a young person shouldn't be exposed to, while childhood helped drive him to his career of service. Not processing like early experiences and traumas also contribute to crippling mental illness, but he's a clinical social worker, a passionate guy in the community here in Sacramento. Even though he's from the Bay Area, he's in Sacramento. Gotta show the love. But also a lot of swag, a lot of confidence, but also a lot of information and a lot of positivity that he shares with himself and others. Mr. LaVontae Hill, appreciate you being here, man. Appreciate you, man. We're gonna jump right into it, man. The Bay Area. It's Richmond?
Richmond, California.
Richmond, California.
Southside Richmond.
Let's talk about it though. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, I mean, everybody has their perception about different places where they live at, where they're from, but you actually are from there. You live there. So, and it's just something about starting from ground zero initially to learn about just the upbringing or the environment where you're from. Because I briefly talked about it in the intro, but from your perspective.
So for me, growing up in Richmond, it's very different. I mean, you get exposed to life real quick. No matter how the home dynamics are, as soon as you go outside of that door, life gonna open up real quick. Life gonna show you what it is, gonna show you the coldest parts. However, it's a lot of community, it's a lot of culture, it's a lot of things that you can find out there where you can build your space, but it's really difficult because it's a lot of outside noise. It's a lot of external factors that can work against you with that. Living in Richmond, you learn really early that it's so easy to stay there. The hardest thing is to leave. Like that, because at a certain point you become consumed with your environment, and that happens everywhere. But specifically in my experience, it was something where I thought it was very natural just to stay in Richmond. And so you see a lot of things. You see the lack of resources. You see all of this violence very early on. You see some of these parts of where you're like, man, this is normal, right? These gunshots, right? That was pretty normal. I thought everybody was exposed to that. So that was just something where you grew up in, but you also learn really early that life is not forever. Like you see a lot of deaths. That's something really earlier on that I seen quite often, which some were earlier friends, things of that nature. So you really get exposed to it quick. There's a lot of positives though out there. There's a lot of things that you will see that maybe a lot of people don't talk about it because the gunshots, the violence, the gangs, it really overshadows those things. But there are very positive opportunities as far as like myself growing up. I was a product of the YMCA. It was Coronado YMCA. They changed it over to M. Downer when I was a kid. My family went to the YMCA, so we all knew about that. But that was a place where when you're outside in the world, you can actually have community. You can be exposed to different resources, be around other like-minded students, be around other kids, go to a place if you don't have anything, if you don't have food, and you're there with mentors. And so that right there was, in a sense, that was my safe haven. And so I grew up being in a lot of those after-school programs, those nonprofit organizations. And that's what really started me off with wanting to go into the field as I wanted to, wanting to help others, wanting to serve as just an individual that could be that light in a lot of this darkness. And that's really where I got the opportunity to see that, oh, I can help somebody. Oh, it looks a little bit different when somebody calls you like big bro and they don't know you at all, or when somebody looks at you as a mentor. And those type of avenues really helped allow for me to see like, oh, it's more than just the hood. It's so many other things that you can be exposed to, but it's so easy for you to go and gravitate towards more of those negative acts. And sometimes that's community for people, and I get that, right? Everybody has their own view of it. But as I look at it, you never really get to see those positive opportunities that you do have because it's so normal for you to go into more of the negative. And so being in Richmond, you really get to, it's a dog eat dog world out there. Like it definitely is. But it can build a lot within you, builds a lot of resiliency, but also you learn how to adapt really, really well. And you can use those things to navigate throughout life. And I use those to really navigate throughout my day to day. But also a lot of those skills that I built back then really propelled me into where I got to today.
Yeah, definitely. They help shape you, right? Those experiences, but also again the guidance, but also those struggles help maneuver or how you fulfill yourself through your life. Um, you talked about, I mean, off jump they wrote about. I mean, that was an article out of the Observer. Shout out to the Observer. But early on, you talked about just that type of environment, like the gunshots normal. Which I mean, it's a tough situation to be like that's normal, but that's what it is. But also now making a game out of it, like just talk about that part for a minute, man, because that's a lot. If it's that's real regular, if it's that consistent, that's a lot.
So I feel like it got to this certain point where you would hear gunshots, and it's like, okay, normal thing is you jump down on the ground, right? It happened so consistently to the point where you were like, okay, now in a way you're desensitized to it. So now it's like, oh, you hear this, is it a firecracker? There's a gunshot. You're like, oh, okay, we hear the sounds, we hear the pauses with it. It's got to be a gunshot. It has to be this, it has to be that. And so really it wasn't a way for us to kind of get through the situation, but it was a way for us to just be like, man, this is a real sucky environment. Like, this is what it is. Let me just be honest. So if I can't make sense and change anything out there, what we gonna do right here? And so that's what really allowed for us to kind of go into that step and make something out of nothing, where the game may not seem like it's very practical for everybody to do, or maybe it's like normal for everybody to do. But in that time, you're a kid. So you gonna make sense of it. Make sense of your environment. Either it consumes you or you do something to kind of stay afloat. And that was really the way that we made sense of it. And it was other ways that we kind of went around it, but jumping on the floor all the time, okay,
After
we can
a while,
do that,
you're
right?
like,
After a while, I was
yeah,
like,
okay.
man, what do we
I
do? And,
got you.
and it's interesting to hear it that way and that from that perspective. But really, that's what it was. It was so consistent to the point where, I mean, up the street you hear the gunshots. Okay, like one time I was watching one of my mentees. He came over the probably like an hour before, called his mom, was like, hey, you know, did he eat anything like that? He's like, oh, she's like, oh no, he didn't eat. I'm like, okay, cool, we all good. I got some noodles for him. He saw. And next thing you know, we hear gunshots, 13 shots. We go outside, they shot up his house. So if he hadn't been with me, who knows? So it was these certain consistencies of the environment. Like, you already know what's going to happen. So what are you going to do to maintain yourself so that your situation doesn't seem as bad as what it is? Because at this point, we kids, we can't do anything. And so that just made it a lot easier for us. And it made it something that was more manageable for us. At least we did it in a safe environment. We were in home when we would do those type of games, or we would try to make sense of like, okay, what caliber is going off? What is this? What is that? Semi-automatic or not? When we did those type of things, that was just us making sense of our environment in a way that we could as kids, but also using the creativity to make it so that we're not wanting to be enticed by it, but we are actually just in the home making sense of something that we can't change.
Different, boy. That's different. Was there other siblings, you and bro, or anybody else in the house as well?
So I had my older brother. That's my ace. So he was always with me. We had my little cousin as well, and my little cousin came around a lot more when I was going into high school, and that honestly turned into my little brother as well. So we were all in the house. But my big brother, that was who I was with all the time. That was somebody that I always looked up to, continue to do so, and he fed me a lot of the game. He helped me understand that and navigate in a way that really helped me, but also gave me the mindset to know that you can go further than what the environment is. So that's how I learned that very earlier on. And it was instilled, of course, by my mom, by my dad, people in my family, but being able to have an older sibling that went through a lot of these different things, was exposed to the same thing, but he was on something different. It was like everybody that you see that is exposed to the hood or whatever, they all consumed to it. All your closest friends, they want to go to the hood life. My brother was very different because it was like, he liked school. I dig school. Like, everybody's like, oh, that's for nerds. I'm like, man, I love to learn. Like, the education was big. I get not liking school, but the education was huge.
Right.
Because I was able to learn things. I was able to see things and apply it in a different way. So with my older brother, he inspired me to want to learn, but also to want to get out of my environment, to actually see what the world was about. And so having, at a very early age in my life, these deep conversations with my brother, to be able to understand, like, man, what's really going on in the environment? You weren't really having that, especially from like a black man. You weren't having that.
No.
That wasn't really a thing. So when I was able to get this free game all the time, that started to change my mental. It started to change the way that I look at things, change the ways that I wanted to do things. So I attribute so much of a lot of the way I think and a lot of the ways that I navigated life earlier on to my older brother and what he instilled into me, but the values that he allowed for me to see by him walking in his path in the way he did, also going through similar experiences as me.
That's what's up. Shout out to the big bro, man. Crucial.
Big time.
That's definitely a dope to have. And you can see the impression last on them because I mean, right, you're pointing to other people and others. So they say your mentees, which is what they need. They need a big bro too. They may not physically have one, but you know what I'm saying, because you have one, that's definitely dope. School years wise, man, what middle school, high school was you going to?
So middle school, I went to LaVontae Hill middle school.
Okay.
It used to be Henry L's back in the day, like way back in the day.
What you hold on, back in the day, bro? You ain't that old, bro.
Nah, so back in the day, I'm talking about when my parents were kids.
Okay.
So that used to be a high school when my parents were kids.
Okay.
So I was not even thought of when I went there, it turned into LaVontae Hill. Then high school, I went to John F. Kennedy in Richmond.
Okay.
It was on Cutting. So
the other Kennedy was
different Kennedy.
Hey, anything off Cutting?
Big time.
Cutting what?
Big
Cutting,
time.
off the freeway.
Big time. Yep. Yes. Big time. So you know that the high school definitely, man, you were exposed to life quick. I mean, we didn't have windows. We had a huge cutout frame. That's really what it was. So when we walked down the hallways, if it was raining, you got a flood of rain just coming through. You really get to see how it was to go to a school that was less fortunate in a sense, right? At a certain point, Kennedy was the #1 school for lockdowns in the Contra Costa County. So that was just the reality. And as a high schooler, as an adolescent, you're like, oh snap. Like we in the dog pound. Like this is what it is. We in the cage like animals.
You're trying to survive this month.
Right. And that right there, I didn't know that so many of those experiences shaped the way that I looked at stuff. But also it was really those first times where I was able to see, one, how the world really views Black men. Two, how a place where you believe is the safest can actually be the one that's the most traumatic.
True.
Third, I was able to see really what the school to prison pipeline was and how that looked for us when I was in high school. And I didn't even know I was exposed to it until I got into college. And I actually had to reflect on everything. So going to Kennedy, going to LaVontae, I mean, riots was normal. We had race wars. That was very normal. It just was, that was the culture. That was the environment that was instilled. And although with all of this noise, you had things that were praised upon, such as you got sports. Sports was a big outlet for me in high school. Sport was a big outlet for me in middle school. That's where you were able to see a lot of these people. That's where you're able to really bond and see that it was a different world outside of the violence. So that was a great avenue. But there was still a point where, although you're in these sports, that violence isn't far behind it. And that was just really the lifestyle. It was the reality where you can have a great time at practice and then you get a call and somebody in your family passed away. Right? You just seen this person, you just shook their hand. Next thing you know, they go on the next day or next week. So it really humbled the experience of holding on to your people and understand who your people are earlier on. But also it made you have that resiliency. It was something that was instilled in being able to overcome adversity, because you deal with a lot of different adversity depending on where you're raised and how you go through it. But when you're early in life and you have to understand what resiliency is in a way where you never got prepared for it, it was just something you had to do, it hits very different. It makes you feel a lot different. But you have to understand, me being resilient right now is the difference between life and death tomorrow. Right? You learn really earlier on. It's like, man, you get to the crib, right? Real. You to the crib before the street lights go on, and
better be.
And it's like, that's what it is, right? It was an unspoken norm that you just knew. I'm to the house before the street lights come on, because one thing is, you don't want mom's pops get hot. I don't want none of the smoke. But number two is, you know what happened once those street lights come on, the world and the environment changes a little bit. It looks different.
Yeah, that's a lot to maneuver. You talked about education. I know, shout out to Big Bro too, but who else is impactful in that mindset, especially being in that environment where, keep it real, Black people may have thought of education the same, as we talked about, right? You should be going to school. Those conversations might have been had a lot, but obviously somebody, it might be somebody else, who else was influential or impactful on putting that in your ear consistently, bro? Because to make that jump to choose your path, I'm going to choose education, even though I could go out here and try to do something else. But who navigate that space for you?
So that's a beautiful question, because I got so many people that I feel really instilled the value to me. So I would definitely say my Dukes definitely real earlier on was like, you smart. Like you always would tell me and my brother, we're the smartest. Like that's just what it was. My dad as well was big on that. He had this mindset of where it was, you guys are doing this because this is what you're supposed to do. Like this is where you know what your worth is and this is what you're supposed to do. So my mom and dad really fed into that early on. The education part of just being smart, being able to stand outside of the gap, being those people that, as long as even if you're in the crowd, make sure that you are the person that stands out because you got your own lane. So that was early on. But then also, my grandparents were huge on that. Like they were big on that as far as just everything that comes from it. And I think it also helped a lot more because my family would do just because parties. So the just because parties was because we were just doing our thing in life. We was doing our thing in school. We were
Celebration,
kids, right? Just celebration, just come together, right? And you don't understand that as a kid, but as you get older, it's like they're feeding into that mindset. They're feeding into you being able to be happy. Like, man,
getting rewarded,
getting rewarded for something that I just enjoy doing. And then also for myself, I would say my mentors, being at the YMCA, that was a big moment where I met my mentor. And his name's Shahad, right? He was able to give me the opportunity to actually just be able to mentor others. And when I seen that, it really allowed for me to say, like, oh man, if I get to a certain place in life as far as an educator or as far as somebody that has a certain level of intelligence and knowledge, I can do the same thing they doing. I can impact in the same exact way. And so it really just shaped me to see the beauty of having knowledge, to see the beauty of what knowledge can do for you, regardless of the connotation of like, oh, you a nerd, right? I think it was very earlier on in life, they always would try to say in the hood, like, oh, you talk like you're not black, right? Like, and it was like, oh man, how I'm supposed to talk, dog? How, I don't got the slang like y'all got, whatever the case is. But of course I had that, but it was just from a way that it was more intelligent the way I spoke. So I felt like that was a bad thing at first when it came down to me liking education, because everybody was like, oh, you talk like you white. I'm like, what does that mean? Right? You feel me? Like we all from the same place. We know this, but it was really important for me to be able to see these people around me, because even with all the noise, I was still able to say like, oh, we're good. We're good, because my knowledge is way more important. I like getting these good grades. I like getting the praise. I like perfect honor roll. I like those things because nobody that look like me doing it. It's harder for me to do that than it is for me to go into a game.
Like you said, I'm gonna set apart. Right, they doing this, all of them doing that.
Exactly.
I'm over here,
and I have to though, and that was just always my mindset. It was not so much of you need to; it's I have to, because it's so easy for me to become consumed by all of the noise. That if I do that, who knows if I come back? So why not take the road less traveled? And it's one that I dig. I like that I'm getting all of this knowledge. It's free game every time I go to school. So I just changed my perspective based off the people that were around me, but also what was fed into me mentally of how I should look at school. Because I always knew earlier on, I'm out of here. Yeah, I'm not staying here. Like that. It's a done deal. I'm not staying here.
That's in perfectly. So going through school, having an opportunity, high school wise, you can make a transition to the next steps. Was it JC, leave home straight to the 4-year? What was that process like to you? Like realize, okay, one, I know academically I'm finna handle my business, but now it's like, where do I want to go that may best fit for me, or I may capitalize on overall?
So it was different for me because it was new. Like I never really understood the process of navigating from high school to college. Like I never really was in those spaces for it. Thankfully, I was able to be in some programs that prepared you a little bit for it, but I didn't know what the SAT was. I didn't know what the ACT was. At that time, we had to take the exit exam to get out of high school. So I was like, okay, it's all these new things that I don't know of. And so when we had got there to the point of me like transitioning, going off to college, so I went to a 4-year straight out of high school. I graduated from my high school with 21 scholarships. So I was like, man, we good to go. We rocking. So I was like, okay, we solid. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what this means, but I just know I need to go forward. And so with my grades, graduating with a 3.9 GPA, it was like, okay. we can do it, right? Like this is what we can do. We get the opportunity. But what really allowed for me to make the decision to come out to Sacramento, to go to California State University, Sacramento, my older brother went there. And I honestly, I was like, I can go to all these other schools, but I was like, I want to rock with my dog. I want to go to school with my dog. Like that's just really what it was. And so when my brother, he was like, yeah, I still go here. I was like, cool. This is where I'm going. Forget everything else. We going to Sac State. And so at that point, it was nothing else changed my mindset. I was like, yeah, we about to become a stinger. And as soon as I made that choice, it was done.
And I think so. One, that having that lifeline here, but now at that point in time too, right? Was anybody trying to hold you back from going? Or anything come up where you was like,
I think for me, as I said, going back to what I said earlier, it's so easy to stay and it was much harder to leave. It was not necessarily anything holding me back as much as it was experiences that could have taken away from me. And that experience that I reflect on the most was senior year. I'm 17 at the time. We just got done with senior night for basketball. We good. My little brother get out the car, and my partner's girlfriend's in the car, and she's like, man, well, girlfriend at the time's in the car. She's like, what's that red light? We like, what you mean red light? Next thing you know, They pulled my little brother back in the car. Gunshots. Boom. It was a laser at the car.
Someone had a beam,
beam on the car.
What?
And they start shooting, letting off. Boom. So we drive off. At that point, for me, it was just like, God, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is
why I gotta go.
This is the situation right here. And it was so easy for me to figure in my mind, these are the experiences that happen that I don't need. I know
this is why I need to get up out of here.
Exactly. And it was, what was difficult for me at that time was when you're in this point of transitioning, going off to college, it's very normal and natural when you're living through, and I believe for myself, my own experiences, when you live through trauma, you develop a certain sense of survival skill, right?
Understood.
And so it was, man, am I forgetting the homies? Am I disrespecting the hood just because I'm now leaving, right? Because they praise the hoopers, they praise the athletes that go. It's like, oh, you putting on for the city. But then for those individuals that have an educational background, it's like, oh, you sell out, you're a nerd, right? And so that right there in my mind, it was like, man, why am I getting all of this greatness and other people around me no longer here? Other people around me don't got the opportunity. Other people around me are struggling. But then I also had to make the determination of that don't have nothing to do with me. And that was a realization that I had to make for myself, but it was also me being able to talk with my family very candidly about the fact of, this is what I want to do, but this is where I'm coming from right now. Like, this is a hard choice for me to make to leave, but I also had to come down to it of, it's a bigger plan for me.
But shit, having a beam on a car don't make it that much.
I'm
out.
I'm out of there,
bro.
It make it real easy to make the decision. Man. I mean, I'm ready to go at this point. This senior year, it's time to go.
Yeah, man. That's definitely yeah. But and then again, shout out to you for making that move. What is have you been to SAC before you end up dipping?
So I went to SAC. So I'm gonna be real. I came to SAC a few times. When I got out here, when I was older, I started to see all the childhood places I went to when I was in SAC. Because my dad had lived out here in SAC for quite some time. And I didn't even know. I used to think SAC was the suburbs. I'll be honest. That's what I thought it was. When we came out here, I was like, man, they got pools. They got the community nice. They got this. I came out to Sacramento. This is the first time I ever knew what a Little Caesars was. It blew my mind how they could have it ready in 5 minutes. I was like, no way. I was a kid. Like, they got it hot and ready. What is this? Yeah. So I was like, no way. This is not a thing. So I used to think SAC was the suburbs. And I never came out here as an adolescent, but I came out here as just in more like middle childhood stages, more like middle school, things of that nature. So that's where I really started to see what Sacramento was about. But when I moved out here fully, I was like, oh, it's not necessarily suburbs, but it is a much more beautiful place in the sense of just how the environment.
Even logistics, where you coming from. And now, if you go to the wrong place, that's a different story.
Very different.
But being on the campus over there, downtown, East Saturday days out there,
different.
This is cool. They got trees. It's people diversity.
Yes,
they out here,
100%, and it's quiet. Very different.
It's quiet a little bit. It's
quiet. Quiet. Great way to say that.
It's a little quieter than mine.
It's a lot more calm.
Bro, shout out to the family and yourself again for the education background.
Thank you.
Putting you and getting on early with it. So early on in college, man, did you already decide on what type of field of work or what industry? What drove you to figure out the career path or education path initially? I don't know if you're still in it right at this point, but I know sometimes we change, right? People get into stuff, they change. I was blessed to be in like child development major early. I knew working with kids, mentorship was something I've always done want to teach. I stuck with it, and I still do it to this day as far as that goes. But for you, what was that career path or major like type of situation for you?
Okay. So I went to Sac State undeclared. Didn't really know what field. I knew I was an athlete, so I was like, okay, I don't got no letters. I know I'm not hooping no more. Like, that dream is done. We good. We not even gonna be delusional at this point.
Okay.
But when I got there, I was like, okay, what do I like? I've always worked with youth. That's always been a number one thing. So I started working at the YMCA when I was 12, being able to have like non-paid experiences and things of that nature. However, I just stayed there. I always worked with youth. That was just my thing. That was my niche. So when I got to college, I was like, man, what can I do that I really like? And I was like, all right, I'm an athlete. We go in sports medicine. I said, okay, we're taking the kinesiology route.
Okay.
I was like, perfect. Well,
go there. Monsters.
Right. Monsters, right? So here we go. So we get there. I'm like, okay, I go to the office and they're like, okay, if you get anything lower than a B or an A, we automatically change your track to a P teacher. And I was like, okay, but if not, you staying on to be sports medical and you good to work with the athletes. I said, okay, cool. Like that plan. At the time, therapy wasn't a thing. I wasn't thinking about mental health. I wasn't everything that propelled me now. It wasn't even on my mind. And so at that time, the one thing, no matter what, that changed my mindset, that pushed me towards what I was doing. At the time when I was at Sac State, I was already working in nonprofit organizations while out here because I was like, man, I'm always gonna work with the youth. After school program, that's my thing. I know I can flourish in that. I love it. But it got to me taking an entry level bio class. And I took that class and I did everything I can to try to get a higher grade. That was the first C grade I've ever got in my life. And it broke me down. Kid you not. And then as soon as I got that C, I had to sit down and ask myself, I said, all right, this is not what I want to do. I said, this is not what I want to do.
The man said he had one C all his life, it was over.
That was done. And I was like, if I'm getting a C in areas that are my prerequisites or not even my prerequisites, what is it? Right. What is the core going to look like? But also, how am I going to maintain in something that I know I'm not doing well in? And at that time, I mean, when I was at Sac State, I'm Dean's List every year. Never was not on the Dean's List. So grades was always still a big thing for me. So I'm flourishing in all my other classes. But the one class that I need for my actual major or the major I want to have, I'm getting a C in. So that right there, I said, what can I do that I love? That's my thing. And somebody came to me and said social work. And I was like, nah, we're not doing CPS. Because in the hood, that's all I ever seen. That's all I ever knew. I was like, CPS, I want to help kids. I don't want to take them away from their family. So I'm like, I'm cool off the CPS. And they were like, well, LaVontae is other stuff with CPS. I mean, there's other stuff with social work. And I said, what do you mean? They gave me a pamphlet with everything. And I was like, whoa, medical? Forensics? School? I'm like, wait, this is not social. What is social work then? Because I'm only thinking of CPS, right? Child protective.
But that's what we as black people or minorities, right? Our hood areas. That's all we see. They came to the house. It wasn't good,
right? Every time they come in, somebody getting taken.
It wasn't good.
So in my mind, I'm like, all right, if you say that social work is different, I'm gonna go out there and do it. So I go out there. I take my first class. Took me by storm. I loved it. I was like, this is me. From my background to my personality to what I do. Everything as far as me wanting to help, wanting to serve, I was like, this right here is the threshold. And it took me by storm.
You can find your passion early in life.
Yep.
And maneuver your purpose, right? It's such a, but especially us as black men, it's hard to find something that we can latch to or walk in. That's like, this is what makes me me.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And it's hard. And sometimes it's going to be a path that a lot of people don't either appreciate.
It ain't the popular one. Come on, you know that.
It's not popular at all. I mean, social work, oh yeah, you're not going to get paid money. I'm
not
worried about none of that. I'm not worried about none of that because at the end of the day, the purpose is I want to be able to heal. I want to be able to serve. And I want to do it in a way where I can be me, in a way where I don't have to fit in the norm and I'm doing something that's very different. My experience prepared me for everything of what I do now. Being a therapist, my life was prepared so earlier on to be able to do that. And people, when I was young, they were like, oh man, you should be a therapist. I was like, I ain't doing that. And there ain't no way in my life I'm doing that. Like,
they already spoke it to you. You put it aside, but it was sitting right there the whole time.
They was like, man, you really know how to listen. I'm like, man, I'm just chopping up with the homies. Like, y'all needed me, so I'm here.
It's not crazy now I say about it. I've been doing this going on 3 years now, going on year 4 through like COVID. But I've been having conversations with my boys, other people, or other people's kids forever. But now, since this is the platform people use now, they gave it a title.
Yep.
But been doing this. You've been doing that. You gave the actual title, type of communication or type of job title. You've been doing it, but also as again, we talked about as being a male, black male one, to find it, but also the one to help others like you. I think I know it's so needed because it's never been to the forefront like it is right now. 100%. You know what I mean? It's never been okay to tell your bro I love you or I'll listen to you, bro. I got your back. I'm listening to you. You want to talk? I'll listen.
That would get clowned back in the day. They would clown you out.
Yeah, especially in your close circle, dog. You know what I mean? But now it's the opposite, which is good because we need it for our survival as well. Like, you know what I mean? And speaking of, like, this month is men's mental health month, which I think should be put at the forefront too, as all the other other things that people put in the forefront. Dates we have every day, different day, but this month should be definitely even more highlighted because, again, man, we are probably on the bottom of the totem pole in society 100%. In the number count as far as what we're doing. We are decreasing, you know what I mean, stuff like that, but it's a lot of good dudes out here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good men out here. A lot of young men trying to find their way. A lot of men trying to find their path or trying to find their purpose. But you don't see that often because it ain't the cutest. It ain't the dopest. So they don't look the freshest all the time. Or not. We put long hours in. You volunteer a lot of time. We struggle. We listen to a lot. We also put a lot of stuff on your shoulders, right? But shout out to you for maintaining that, man, and especially getting in it early. That's dope because I know students, people, kids look up to you or other mentors, right?
100%.
Which is dope. But also something that you feel confident. I can tell by the way
Yeah.
you walk in it,
Oh,
you
yeah.
move in it, and that's and it's okay to be you.
Right.
And I think that's definitely a dope piece, man. I know you talked about sports and hoop,
Mm-hmm.
and no, we definitely can't forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
How important was the hoop stuff for you growing up, man? Again, being from Oakland, Richmond, like there's some hoopers come
Right.
out of
Oh,
Richmond,
yeah.
right?
It's a lot.
So just who are some of the impactful people, players maybe you've seen growing up to help put that stamp internally, and you don't want to be like, okay, now I'm in the gym, I'm in the court.
Man, I say so my dad was big time athlete. He was big track star. He was that man when it came to track. My mom was also, she played softball. So they always loved sports. My grandparents love sports. My grandpa loves it. Like that's the lifeline. My grandparents have been season ticket holders for the 49ers for over 40 plus years. So that was always, sports was there,
Locked
right?
in.
A lot of people in my family played sports. And so my brother, I watched him playing sports. He played football. We played Pop Warner for the Richmond Steelers starting off out there. And Richmond Steelers was heavy hitters back in the day. Heavy hitters. That headhunters on all four.
Yeah.
Like that's just what it was. And so being in that type of environment, you just get to see all your friends from the neighborhood. So really it started off as it's like community. You get to see your family, you get to see your cousin, you get to see your friends,
practices, the home,
everything going up too. You want the games to come, everything cracking, no matter what. Everything going up.
It meant something.
And so then football, I stayed with it, enjoyed it, but basketball really caught my attention when my little cousin started to come around a lot more, my little brother. And for him, he loved basketball. Like that was his thing. He was great in football as well, but basketball is where we bonded.
Yeah.
My big brother wasn't a hooper, he was a football player. That was his thing. He was that man with that. But my little brother loved hoop. And so with us constantly being around each other, it was like, man, it was natural for me to be like, all right, let's just hoop. Like, let's hoop. And then it was so cool because we were able to hoop on the same team. We went to go to the YMCA, played on more of the rec league team. And it was great. I was like, man, this is tight. Like I've never imagined myself being in this space, but I like it. I got the handles for it. I like how I play what I'm doing. I like how the competitive nature is and just the intensity of being there. It's like, man, it's me against you. Although it's a team sport, it's a me against you once I got the rock. So just that mentality, I developed that. And I had that already from football, but being able to use that and have that go over to basketball, that right there was like, okay, this is where I'm at. But then also at the time you had like Year's Finest. You had
that was
life.
Crazy.
You had the mixtapes, right? So we in the crib, like
I just watched
turn on the mixtape.
Something was popular today with Trevor Dunbar.
You had Kiwi Gardner.
Man, it was some
crazy.
Aaron Gordon, all them was on there. It was wild highlights, man.
You had hoopers.
Year's Finest went crazy.
That's what I'm saying. And that right there, that right there kept everybody focused. You like you want the highlight reel. You want to be able to be in the space when they record and when they come out. So that right there, for me being young, I was like, oh, this cracking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we finna go up. We trying to do the handles like him. We trying to do this. We want to make sure we get the highlight tape like them. And so everything at the time, as far as how the culture was, as far as what basketball was for somebody that was playing in the Bay, it was so gravitating because you just wanted to be in that environment. You just wanted to be like this person that you see on YouTube. And then of course YouTube started to become much of a bigger thing at that time, right? Dating the age, and that's okay. But at that point, it was like when you seen that, the way that you were motivated to just get out there and play, that right there was something that was indescribable. I don't even feel like that at the moment when I was in high school. I didn't even know what that was really doing for me, like how I know now. But it was something where it was speaking to your soul, like, yeah, you about to get it in.
That's what's
right now. You about to get it in.
That movement was crazy.
That was a big movement. Yeah,
that movement was wild, man. You mentioned grandparents, bro. And again, I'm big. I tell my students, my kids, wherever I'm coaching, value your grandparents, man. Like they're not here forever. None of us are, but at that stage, the grandparents are who they are grandparents for a reason. And I'm like, man, if they come to y'all games, if they doing stuff for y'all, be polite, be thankful, be appreciative. But how close is that relationship with the grandparents?
Super close. I mean, they were invested in my life for a really, really long, like still invested in my life. From a very early age, my mom's parents and also my dad's parents, my dad's mom's very invested into my life. So that was something where I really understood the importance of grandparents and how they are really the heart of the family. And I always valued seeing my mom's parents because still every Christmas, that's their anniversary. So we would have these big gatherings where my grandpa would talk about all these stories. My grandpa is a natural storyteller, and he just remembers every single thing about him and my grandma. And it's so beautiful for me to be able to see. And you don't see that in a lot of different households. You don't see that. So that was honestly the first view that I seen of like, oh, this is what that's that real love. Like that's what you want, right? And so like my grandpa, he gave me the nickname Tiger Man, and I got Tiger on my arm for him specifically because that I value that so much.
Yeah.
I got a rose on my ring right here. My grandmother's name is Rosie.
So my grandmother's name is Rose.
So this, you know what I'm saying? So that right there, that bond that we have and that we continue to have. When I grew up, my grandpa's first person to ever take me to go get some candy cane socks when that was a big thing in Pop Warner. He gave me shock pads. It was like all of these things he was invested. And they wanted to have the time.
Unforgettable, bro.
Right? And those are the moments that I hold on to the most because I remember my grandma, she used to see me spin the ball on my finger. She was like, "Oh, do you want to dunk?" And it was like my grandma even making an attempt to try to put me on a hoop outside. It's like those things sit with you because those moments, you don't get that back, one. But it's also when you get older, you really start to value the fact of, man, they were showing me the purest form of love just by doing small acts. And the same thing like my dad's mom. That's the first person to ever make me an egg sandwich. I didn't know nothing about it.
Fire. He was like,
fire. I'm at the crib like, where has this been?
Appreciate you.
Like, I don't even know. And so that right there was so important to me as a kid. And I was so thankful to the fact that I was able to just embrace it. I loved on it. Still do to this day. My dad's mom was the first person to ever give me hoop earrings. I didn't appreciate them at the time because I was more in the studs, all the other stuff. But now as I get older, it's like, it's always something that I remember.
That's cool.
My grandma was the first one to ever do that. And those are things you just hold on to.
That's what's up.
You really cherish them.
Dope, man. Definitely. It's definitely dope. And I encourage you, anybody listening still too, if you got them around, value them while they're here. And pour back into them now while you're here. Or just spend that time. They don't want much, really. It's just a little time for them just hanging out. Sometimes just sitting, doing stuff.
Doing nothing.
My mom's side down south, so I want to go back down there too, man. So I sat outside on the porch. And just outside. Grandpa, he didn't say much of nothing. We just chilled. Grandma never wanted much, but go to the little Walmart with her or something like that. Go to J.C. Penney's. I'm dating my age, and that's it. But she didn't want much, and I'm like, but for me, it was priceless. But it was just time. It was just the time, bro. Like just sitting there chilling with Grandpa and talk a little bit. How you doing? How school? You good? All right, we just chilling. You know what I mean? That's it, bro. It was being from California too, but I grew up down there for those 4 years. But I would go back during summertime. But it was like, man, to get out away from all this, go out there and slow down a little bit. Sit out there and chill. Like the muggy nights, sometimes the down south nights, we just chilling. The crickets everywhere, whatever. Just you hear, we just sitting there, just chilling. I was just like, damn. But I also see like a lot of characteristics in me from him. Like Grandpa, real laid back dude, really not confrontational, real laid back, soft spoken somewhat, but just always observe, just chill. He didn't want to do all that. Nah, he just want to come watch his little hoop, watch show. Me and Grandma, we watching hoop. I can remember us watching. I said, Grandma, you like? I'm like, Grandma, Lakers don't play till 8 in California. What you doing up? It's 10 o'clock down south. Now I'm watching Kobe. I'm like, what? But she hated Tim Duncan. I said, how can you hate Tim Duncan? He was the nicest boy. I can't stand that dude. But she loved Kobe. But that was our bonding time. We watching Lakers. I was a Laker fan. I'm saying, we watching the game. I'm like, damn, I'm really watching hoop with my grandma. Like, that was everything. We watching hoop. I'm like, she is really up late watching how, like, this is the craziest thing. But that was our thing, bro.
It's the coolest thing, though. It's cool.
It was hella cool.
It's so cool. Dope, bro. Like, my grandma, she loved stories. She loved scrap. And, like, so this first time when I was a kid, she was like, oh, yeah, I'm watching Grey's Anatomy. I'm like, I used to think that was like a soap opera. I know nothing about it until I got older. And I was like, man, so my grandma really loved this. Like, she loved this. I
wasn't missing it.
Right. And she was on it all the time. But those were the moments of where it's like, all right, cool. I remember my grandma, my mom's mom, for the earliest, I call her Nana. So it's Nana and Papa. So she would earlier on, man, every time we would go there at like 6 in the morning. But no matter what, when I was a kid, she had all the VCRs. She had all of them. So she would have them behind the TV. Every morning she'd get up, she'd make me 3 toasts. And she was like, you good? I'm like, yeah, get the orange juice, watch my VCR. We were solid. And that was just how we were spending the time. So my mom got there, whatever the case may be. And it's just those small moments.
It's just like stuff I can remember. My sister didn't laugh about it now. I'd be like, bro, I was in college. So I was like an hour away, 45 minutes. So I would come home. I'd come home, start the washer, call myself going back out. But I may go back to campus or go to my boy house for a weekend, go for the night, but I come back Sunday. Think I'm finna finish my clothes, but I'm knowing Grandma already that's done. Bruh, I walk in, that's already crispy folded right there in the bag, ready to go with snacks in the bag. I'm like, that's done. Thanks, Grandma. It's just like stuff like that. Even remember when I started to have a little money on the side, working up school, I would call myself giving her some bread, right?
What you doing?
She keep that money. I wait. It'd be 2-3 months later. You know that money in the drawer, in the top drawer in the room. Grandma, I've been giving you a couple dollars here and there. She's like, I don't need money. You know what I mean? So you gonna need it one. You might need it for something. I'm like, bro, that's crazy. She's kept in a little envelope with my name on it in my room, in my drawer. And my sister's like, she spoiled the boys in our family. Hey, what can I say? You know what I mean? Grandma it was tight, man. It was just that stuff for me is always like something I always like to hold on to and remember. But it was like those were the dopest times, man.
Yep.
Like just people who care about you,
Yeah.
genuinely, right? They used to ride the hill to watch me play because they never see me play in person while in high school here. But for college, they got to come to the games. They take that little ride, sit in that little seat. I can look over the game day at home. Grandma and grandpa right there, bro. I was like, damn, bro, it's the best feeling in the world. So I definitely can relate to that type of feeling, man. Oh yeah, for sure.
Hold on to him.
Bro, I want to talk about September 19th a little bit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just the you said that I'm reading from the interview you did with them, and they wrote down, they quoted you on the your world was turned upside down.
Yep.
In a state where, like I said, we are right now, where we need outlets, we need people to talk to, but it can get stressful. It can get hard. Just, I mean, and of course, like, yes, success is good, but the struggles is what makes, or the overcoming them, is what shapes us to help pour into others and bless other people from our stories. Just want to talk about that event or that type that night, those feelings you were going through.
Okay.
That you kind of had to, you came face to face with.
Right. So a big thing for me, as I've started to see since that experience, which I'll go into as well, vulnerability is difficult.
Very. I'm gonna say, bro, from I'll be 42 next month to you. How old are you right now?
So I'm 28.
I'll 28, bro. It is so hard. It's hard.
It
is. We don't look like a fool. Somebody told me we don't want our stuff to be like blasted on a big board for everybody to see, or a person we're in a relationship with, something like that, or somebody whose friend was. We don't want to get put on this. It's really hard.
It's extremely hard. And the thing is that if you weren't modeled around that, it's so difficult for you to even embrace what that is and the power of being vulnerable. Right.
And I'll even say, sorry, I didn't cut you off, but even if you don't even see it.
Yep.
Because, you know, sometimes we saw some shows, but we still didn't see that part. We saw some of the healthy shows when we were younger, I thought, but we didn't see that part.
Yep. You never do. Right. And so for me, going through that experience, I had to understand that I'm vulnerable right now. Like, that right there was the ultimate challenge for me, because as a man, I've never seen that. That was never something that you would see. And it was never something where you would feel like, okay, I'm vulnerable with you, and then what, am I a man after? It's like, I can't be the both. I can't be both.
Tough.
You can't be both. Tough, and so for me, what happened, I had got up one morning, and so with that experience, the context of September 19th, the reason why that's so meaningful to me, because I always remember it, that was the first time that I ever dealt with obsessive compulsive disorder. So that is what I'm diagnosed with, but mine is different. Mine is, and when they told me that, I was like, I'm not cleaning nothing. I always had the view of what I've seen on TV is you clean, you want to clean excessively, things of that nature. But no one ever told me that OCD looks different for a lot of different things. And so with mine's is pure obsessional. What that means is that it's pure only in my mental. You would never be able to see anything's wrong with me. And so all of mine, it comes from a place of intrusive thoughts. It latches on to what your values are. It latches on to the things that you love, because it's your mind. Is your mind being infused with all of these intrusive thoughts, which we get intrusive thoughts on the regular. We get that on the reg. But see, that's not the issue. The issue is that the consistency. When you're sitting with the same thought and that thought never goes away, and you've been thinking about that thought for the last 10 hours, you're going to think it's true. Why do I keep going back to this? Why can't I break that away? You have no break. It's relentless.
Wow.
And so for me, I got up, and first thought on my mind. Now, mind you, I had been dealing with it for a little bit, and I never had an experience with it at all throughout my entire life. This was the first time I ever even knew any, but I've always knew I had anxiety. But of course, growing up in the hood, people not really model what mental health looks like. I didn't even know what mental health really was until I went into the space of becoming a therapist. And so with me at the time, I'm thinking, oh man, why am I thinking these thoughts? Everybody's like, oh, stop thinking about it. I'm like, that's super, super simple, right? Cool.
Yeah,
Let me stop thinking about it. Bam, I'm still thinking about it. And I get up that one morning. I don't even know what it was. It wasn't even as if I had anything that would have like provoked this thought. Got up. Suicide was all it was on my mind. And it wasn't even doing the action. It was just the word. And so from the word happening, that then transitioned to, do I want to do that? And I'm like, but I don't. I'm trying to live. Like, I kid you not, I'm trying to live. Because I had been going through with these intrusive thoughts for now like a week or 2 weeks, something like that, of that nature, a little bit longer. And it was just this moment I got up and I was like, dude, what is going on? And I said, man, well, if I can't get my thoughts to align, I shouldn't be here. Now, mind you, all of this stuff that I done went through in life, these accolades, these successes, all of these things that you would be praised upon. I didn't know what was going on. Because at the point I looked at myself as the golden child. what I went through to how I've went throughout life to what I'm now accomplishing, it's no way you can see any type of wrong with that. And so that was a moment where it really, and mind you, me being a therapist at that time, I literally was against going to a therapist. That was the whole, because I'm like, I'm a therapist. How was I not able to see this? How do I not know what's going on? How can I not figure out what's going on? And I'm a therapist every single day. Am I an imposter? Right now, you got a flood of all these other thoughts of, man, do you really want to do that? Have you always wanted to do that? I'm like, I don't want to. But you're thinking this thought so much. So I'm in that same space of where if you think about it so much, then you're more likely to do the action. That's false. But at the moment, I'm thinking it's true. I'm thinking if I keep thinking this, something's going to happen. So in that moment, that pushed me to say, all right, well, the vulnerable aspect of me is going to go find a therapist. I said, there's no other way I can do this without me finding a therapist. And that was the hardest thing ever because it made me feel as if, one, I'm not a good therapist. Two, it made me feel as if you're less of a man. Three, it made me feel like now you are betraying the unspoken rule of any Black household. And what that is what happens in the house stays in the house. And so for me, I got all these things going on with me in that one setting. And the one thing that I should have been focused on the most is let's get better.
That's real, bro.
Right. Like and so you got all these different things. And so that moment was so difficult for me, but it was one that really allowed for me to understand. And I was so thankful to my self-awareness because I knew something was off. Like I knew it. Once my sleeping pattern started to change, I'm an early bird with it. I get up. I hate sleeping in. And so that changed for me. And then once I noticed that, I was like, man, something's off. I don't know what, but something's off. And in that moment, I said, yep, it's time to go get some help. It's time to do that. And I thank my brother because he helped me with that. And he was like,
that process is not always easy.
It's not.
Or trying to find somebody that you feel comfortable with, vulnerable with, also knowing that, because I mean, I've been through therapy myself, and it was through a crucial time where, especially like you coaching kids basketball, I got to a time people testing your morals, testing who you are, trying to bring you down. I'm like, wait, I think I know what I'm doing. I'm pretty good. I ain't the best, but also being open, like, do things better. But it's like, no, talk to somebody. They were like, nah, you are good. Trust in yourself. If they're not with you, they will leave, and that's fine. That'll stress off you. And I was like, oh, okay, this is positive affirmation stuff on my wall in the man cave. You know what I'm saying? Believing in myself, but also believing the kids believing in you, give them a chance, opportunity to play and do stuff that way. You invest in them. It's like, yeah, okay. But for a while, it was like, man, I'm up late, 2 couple hours of sleep, getting up, trying to do better stuff. Like, I've tried all I can try. It may not be me. It's not me. I study. I watch film. I try to watch coaching thing. I try to adapt. I try to communicate differently per child. Everybody is not the same. I get it. But the game to me is certain. You play it a certain way, but it's like, you know what? Nah, it's not you. No. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I gave my all. I can sleep at night. I tried. Hey, we tried. We may have lost, but I gave my effort. I can go down like that. You know what I mean? And realize, as a coach, I can't play the game. My playing time is over. Playing day is over. But the investment is different, bro. So that's definitely shout out to you. But also, like I said, and it's timing is everything, man. Hearing you say it too, it's like, man, that's the biggest issue I believe amongst all. I'm gonna say black men is that because we if you're looked at to be a certain way, or you should carry a certain weight, or you should hold up, but then being vulnerable, it's like, man, but now I give you some and you tear me down with it.
What you gonna do with it now?
And I think that's the biggest piece is how people receive us being vulnerable, but also how they give information to help us back. If it come out some type of offense, we're gonna take because I've opened up to you. But if you throw it at me aggressively, it's like,
if you use it as a knife later on, it's like, should I have opened up to you? And we think about that. We all the time. All the time, right? If I'm vulnerable with you, yes,
because we don't want to feel like you stab me or I'm less of the dude. That's just what it is,
and it breaks you down because a lot of
it hurts internally.
No matter what, your pride is invested into it. Your ego is invested into it.
That makes us men too.
Exactly, and so that's big on the forefront of us as men, right? Which is understandable, but it gets to this point of where in today's time, as you talk about it, right, it's no better time to talk about mental health than right now because now the world's actually listening. They're seeing that these things that were these norms in the household generations no longer work. They no longer are able to increase the ability for you to sustain your life the way you want to, right? But the thing is that everybody wants to promote mental health and men's mental health, right? Until you open up about that, right? Until a man no longer can do what he was already doing. And now it's like, man, you acting weird, but it's like, I'm trying to take this time for me, right?
And that's what we should be okay now, be the norm, but also we just want it to be respected. And again, and be honored too. Like, nah, go take care of yourself. I'll do for you. Like I said, my boss, my supervisor right now, she's like, nah, make sure you take time for yourself. We take a vacation. We play. put your days in.
Mm-hmm.
You on your birthday, you working? Nah, you sure? Nah, just take time. It's like I see why, because I mean, it's definitely impactful for us because you can't be better for everybody else if you're not for yourself. And I think I was like, you know what?
That's key.
That is so crucial.
That's key.
I can't really point to the youth audience. I'm going to my 18th year coaching. I can't point to these gentlemen unless I'm really right with myself. Like, so we talked about, somebody else talked about like offline, like AAU. I was like, well, this year, couple years I had to do AAU. I had coaches that do it, but it took me time to chill, revamp. Right? June is high school month. We in it right now, but I took some time off. I'm ready to go. I was anxious to get back in it, but I took that time off to rejuvenate myself, do other things. Like, no, I'm ready. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? But it's so
self-care looks different
for everybody.
And it looks different for a man too, because one thing that I understand now at this point, I used to think self-care you had to do some extravagant stuff. Like I used to think
it was something we never seen,
right.
something we talked about. I'm like,
don't know what self-care is, right?
You going to a nail shop or you going to?
You don't got the terminology for it. You don't even got the understand like self-care,
Come
right?
on, man.
But then if you change that a little bit, self-care can be self-love. That can be, man, I can't come out right now because I just got to chill.
Eating better.
I
stay in the house.
Right, I'm saying
y'all going here. I know y'all finna go. Y'all finna go. Nah, I'm gonna stay right here.
Right, and that's it.
Sleep.
But look at the opinions that come after that, right? Oh, you don't want to hang out with the homies. What you mean?
And I will say this. I said this as another guest I actually interviewed too. Just if they're your partners, they respect you. They're like, all right, holla at you. It's cool. Tap in when you get, next time you come out or something like that. Or hey, I'm gonna take a rain check, y'all. All right, dog, because we are grown, so I can stay in.
Yep.
I can stay in the house. It's cool. Yep. I'm not missing too much that night. If it's occasion, okay. If I want to come out, I'm gonna come out. If not, I'll holler at y'all. Like, all right, bro. Not even a problem. Or they might be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm staying too. Because you know what I mean. Depending on what situation we're doing, that's what it's about. But I mean, I definitely feel, I feel that, bro. I definitely agree with that. And just having communications with your partners, man. Like checking on your, check on your people, checking on your boys. Like, hey, bro, what's up with you? You good? Everything tapping in. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Just little stuff like that goes a long way, especially for us in our community, especially as males. That was something like we don't do it. We never did it, but now it's starting to happen more often and in public and more consistently.
Right.
It's happening
the
more
consistency is happening. And it's so interesting that you say that, because I just did a workshop this Saturday or previous Saturday. And at this workshop, I was talking to one of the youth, and she had said, I feel really bad when I can't help my friends. And I said, okay, why is that? Now, mind you, I'm already knowing what's going on with that. I'm like, okay. Well, and she says, well, I feel like I'm expected to have to make sure they're good enough. I said, who gave them that expectation? She said, well, you get that once you become a friend. I said, no, you don't. You don't get that at all. That's not, you place that on yourself, right? That's something that you're telling yourself you have to do because you're wanting to feed into them. You can't even feed into yourself. Then how does that work? And she's like, well, I don't know how to do that. And so I went to this point of where I always ask the students, and I tell them, I say, you love everybody else. I say, raise your hand if you said you love yourself. Nobody raised their hand. 2 people. And I said, why you didn't say it? I didn't know it was a choice. It's been embedded into us so earlier on in life that we got to take care of everybody else. So the way that I call that, the way that I coined it for myself, I call it big heart problems. We got some big heart problems.
But it can cause financial problems, they cause mental problems. Yes, you are, especially in our community. We have that because we're trying to take stuff from before, fix that ourselves, or the ones that like it's
generational curses.
Bro,
that's what it is. Like, that's what it is, because they instill it into us. If you older sibling,
you gotta look at the younger.
Look at the young. If you're in a family where you closer with your cousin, take care of them. Make sure they good. Oh, you take care of that, and then you can do your homework.
Let you get no bread, no success.
Exactly. Oh, now you got to share with everybody. Now you got to feed them. Now you got to, and it's ingrained into us because nobody's giving the context to why we doing it. Nobody's telling us you doing this because your mom, your dad, we struggling right now. We need you to pick up a little extra at a plate. Nobody's getting that. All you getting is do this, do that. So we're going to build our own mindset of, oh, well, then I can't share with you. Then I can't share about my emotions. Then I can't do that.
Then you hold that in, but then it brings you down to where like, what happened to you?
Now you're a burden.
Men's rate, suicide rate is the highest there is because of the not saying that. No, emotionally something happens and we don't know how to react. We react the wrong way. It's like, bro, like you could have talked to somebody or reach out.
Could have talked, should have, could have. Shoulda, coulda. And you know, it's so easy for somebody to just come to you and say, I hear you. I see you. Right. That right there, you don't really see it. It's unprecedented as far as that being how men act. But for a man to come to you and be like, bro, I hear you. Because the thing is,
that can start everything.
That can change everything. Because you don't know how much this person is going through. But as soon as you open up and you see that this person going through the same thing, we ain't live the same life.
And then you can be like, well, what are you doing?
Yep.
Well, who
What do
talking
you
to?
do? Yep. Now
Similarity.
we
Then those
change it.
conversations get to
Yep.
happen. Yeah.
Now we
Support
turn
maybe
it back.
I may better.
Right.
Okay, I got your back, dog.
Mhm.
I may have that resource. I got
Exactly.
somebody you can tap in
Got
with.
somebody, and you don't even got to know me like that, but I know
It
you
costs
gonna listen.
it costs
I'm
nothing
listening.
for us to do that. I'm like, people just wholeheartedly,
Yep.
especially to support somebody else, or click that button, or send a phone number,
Mhm.
or send a link, or introduce a call. Hey, I know this person. Can you give them a conversation, whatever? And it just takes nothing for that, but also that could be a conversation that helps them change their life, or change their trajectory of their life.
Yep.
You know, based on what you do. If you do it for the right reasons, bro, that should be everything,
So
right?
much power.
And that's it, and that right there, just being open and
Yep.
honest, being helpful, bro. Like, people need to be more helpful.
That's that
You know what I mean?
vulnerability aspect.
True.
Like that, right? That's a big. It's not
True.
easy for somebody to be
True.
like, "Dang, bro,
You right.
You go through it, right?" Because as black men, I don't care what nobody say. You ask me what I'm doing, I'm gonna say, "I'm good.
I'm good, bro. That's
I'm solid.
You all right?
I'm
straight.
good. Yep.
But really, nah.
Nah,
It's okay.
I'm
That's
hurting.
sure. Or if you're not sure, or what's struggling right now, or
I'm
what's
hurting.
going on that's weighing you down right now, it could be something small,
Yep.
major, but get it out. Maybe get that support, that lifeline. Like, dang, man,
that.
thanks for hooking me up, man. I got that situation, or mom's is tripping, or whatever. But thanks for making that call. We got everything situated, bro. It could change everything.
It could change everything.
But we don't know that.
Yep.
We may wear it on our facial expression. We may not wear it, or you may wear it, but we just don't open up verbally to see because we can't tell. It could be numerous things, man.
Mhm.
What type of fulfillment does it do for you to be able to get information out, feelings, communication out to youth, young adults, all the people you're talking to, man, knowing that, one, your experiences help you prepare you, also knowing that you're giving them gems and tools. How does that make you just feel internally? Because I'm a big fan of, like, when people, of course, when people who rock with you
Mhm.
is a good feeling, but it's dope to people who may not be in that circle, or somebody come and say, hey, Coach JT, that episode was dope. I like that. Or, Coach, I appreciate you, man, for everything you've done for me. I went to one of my players' 30th birthday party. I said, damn, I coached you years ago.
That's
But he was
good.
like, I'm over having, but he was like, no, Coach, you better show up.
Mm-hmm.
But that means something. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
And I know check, no cash that. I mean, more, how does it make you feel eternally to be able to pour in and leave your stamp on these people's lives, man? Because that's what you're doing.
It changed it. I want to say for me, earlier on, man, I always knew I had something different. Like I look at myself as a light bringer, a light bearer, and also someone that's a wounded healer. And it's not in the sense of like trying to heal with all these different practices, but it's a wounded healer in the sense of I went through an extreme amount of trauma, whether it's something that was something I viewed, something I witnessed, something I experienced. And I wear all that on my back. I wear all that. I make sure that everybody know I'm from Richmond. Like, you gonna know I'm from the hood. I don't care what you think about it. You gonna know I'm from there because I want you to have your stereotype. I want you to have your beliefs. Because as soon as I speak, it's
I'm about
different,
to say, until
right?
you get up there, boy.
Until I speak, then you like, no way, right?
But
oh, you went to these schools.
It's
You
dope,
did that.
though, to see that.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an amazing
You
experience.
change their whole perception,
whole perception, right? When you went to USC, yeah, I did. Top honor, yeah, I did that. Oh, Sac State, yeah, top honor too. And it's like when you see that, and these people can come to me, and it's like, oh, I had a workshop, and I was talking to somebody, and one of the kids came in, had his grill, and I was like, oh, you got your slugs in? He like,
terminology.
I'm like,
bro,
yeah,
this ain't new.
Right.
They didn't start wearing these yesterday, bro.
So it's like to have that conversation, and for after we go through the workshop, and I already see that they have a certain perception about what a mental health workshop is going to be like.
Right.
But when it gets to that point, I had that conversation after, they like, man, you changed my life. Like I want to go into social. I can do this, right? It's now possible. And that's something for me where now I take this route of where I love showing people it's possible. Whether it doesn't look linear to how everybody will tell you, or maybe your path won't look like my path, but it's you can get to it. And for them looking at me and they're like, LaVontae, bro, you would be talking about your feelings. I'm like, I do though. Like I really be talking about my feelings. Like I need to do that as well, because all the time it's not for you. Sometimes I'm talking to me.
For myself, for sure.
Sometimes I gotta let myself know, like, bro, you ain't there yet. You are a human still. Like, regardless of how people may idolize it or may view it, you still a person. So you still got to check in with you. And so when people come to me and they tell me like, man, I really gravitate to that. That for me, honestly, it's still a surreal type of feeling, because at points I still get to these moments like, I don't know if people really listening. Like and it's cool if you're not, but also when they come to me, it's like, yeah, this entire time, what's been told to me, that's false. People telling me that, oh, you got to keep everything in, or oh, people not going to understand. Some people don't have the capacity. Some people do. But when they're feeding back into me how I'm feeding into them, that right there allows for me to understand this is the purpose. This purpose is so great because my words right now may help you develop a different perspective. It may help you look at your situation from a different light, but also you now have the tools to maintain your mental health, but also to propel yourself forward into the placement that you want to be in. And I have something to do with that because I was either a guide in that path, or you was just able to rock with something I said and that changed it. And I'm not looking for nothing from it. But the thing is that I treat all of it with a genuine understanding and a wholehearted feeling of, hey, let me meet you where you at. Let me. It's all
key right there. So
good,
I
right?
can come right there. We can
And
have the
we
swag battle.
good.
We can have the conversation.
Right.
We can talk about hood stuff. We can talk
Mhm.
about education stuff.
And
But you being versatile, bro, I would say this too. You being versatile is everything.
man,
Being
I
able
honor
to
that.
relate to them. I can dress my swag.
Yep.
I can talk to them, but I can go to the hood and talk to the hood talk too. But
And
I also
that's
can get in
it.
front of board members and sell water to a well, as
Yep.
they say, right? But that's such key. That's how you stay tapped in, locked in.
Always.
Hey, yep, they gonna lock you in for somebody else. Hey, yep, Mr. Hill here. Oh, yep, for sure.
It's the coach. I'm cultured with it, right? And that right there,
That's
as you
crucial.
even pointed out, the way that it comes with, and they asked me, I did an interview, and they're like, oh, why you dress how you dress? I'm like, because I want to make sure y'all know I'm gonna still look fly. I'm going away from the tradition of what a therapist may look like, what a speaker may look like. I can still be myself because it's gonna be some kid out there that don't go the traditional route. That's like, oh, I want to wear my grill, I want to wear my J's. That don't mean you can't become a therapist. Man. That don't mean that you can't become an educator. That don't mean that you got to stop out a barrier because what you from the hood and that's what everybody else doing. Yeah. Nah, I'm from it too. But guess what? There's options, and it's somebody that look just like you, but you've never had the conversation of, all right, can a man say they love themselves? Yes. Oh, for sure. That 2023, first time I ever told myself, oh, I love me. That's the first time in my life I was like, and when I shared that, they were like, no way. I never really said that to myself. I said, there we go.
No, yeah.
That changes everything when you can actually sit there and say, and I don't get nothing from you. I go to the mirror and just say, hey, Hill, I love you. I love you, boy. You doing your thing. To feed into myself, that was something that was so taboo because they're like, oh, yeah, you talking to yourself. You're doing things that people not doing. True. Guess what? But it's right. Yeah. But it's helping me. And I've had somebody do the same thing, feed it into themselves. Say you love yourself. Man, that's weird.
But you said me is a key word.
Right, it's me. That's it. And so it's just such a beautiful experience when I see it. And a lot of the time I'm grateful to it, I'm thankful to it. But sometimes I be so taken back, I don't even know how to respond sometimes. I'm like, you rocking with me? Like, I just feel like it's just me doing what I know I love and something that I know I have so much love in this field of what I do, just being able to speak, being able to have that connection with people. I'm like, I'm just doing it off the love. But when you come to me and you tell me, it's like, dang, I didn't even know it was like that.
Leaving your stamp on them, bro.
Right.
That's dope. That's dope. At the end of the shows, bro, I always being hoopers. Triple threat, drill, pass, shoot, right?
Okay.
But shout out to the boy D Taylor, the homie D Taylor, Dwight Taylor Sr.
Oh my God.
That's my guy, yes, sir.
My God.
He threw me the alley-oop on this one. Your personal triple threat. Give me 3 things though. Somebody who don't know Mr. Hill, LaVontae, that may be like, you know what? That's who he is. Put your stamp on how you move. Kind of that's how you know what I'm saying? It's you. Give me your triple threat right now. 3 things that you kind of hold on to and maneuver by, or kind of want people to know this is me.
Okay. First one, big one, empathy.
Empathy.
That's big.
Okay.
That's just me through and through.
Empathy.
Second is resiliency.
Resiliency.
That right there is wholeheartedly just where I'm at.
Okay.
And the last one I'll say, it's a wounded healer. That right there is that is me above everything else, because it's a constant reminder where I come from, how easy it is to stay there, what my family then went through, and also when I go into these spaces, never forget where you started, because somebody gonna treat you differently, somebody gonna look at you a certain way, but guess what? You ain't go through what I went through. You never went through the 3 years of mental pain I went through. So y'all not touching it, and I have to remind myself with that, but always stay true to who I am. That will always be the triple threat.
That's what's up, man. You already here first, man. Before we got it, shout out to the homie D-Lo and KC, man, doing their thing, man. You already know you gotta show love to the bros doing their thing on the airways, man. We live, man. We here at our place, event space, invitation room. You heard it here first with the guy himself, by way of Richmond, California. Look, we here in Sacramento, man. 94 Feet with Coach JT, Mr. Hill. We out.
Love it.
Peace.
Peace.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.